Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just Cuz, the podcast where two cousins talk about things they love.
Just cuz. So, today we're going to be talking about something very interesting, something that's been covered by lots and lots of people. Sarah Zed, for one,
Mm-hmm.
has done incredible videos about it. But, we're going to take a slightly different angle, slightly different view today, and we are going to talk about, I've been calling it in my head, the progression of fandom, how fandoms progress, right? So right now there are some shows, we've talked about them all, I believe, on the channel that are very good and have amassed big online followings. Those shows that I'm referring to are Good Omens, Our Flag Means Death, and What We Do in the Shadows. Those are three shows that are being called in the common nomenclature the new Superwholock online. And Max, do you know what Superwholock is?
Vaguely, because you have talked to me about this, and like you mentioned, Sarah Zed, other YouTubers have covered things like this, and I've watched all of those videos. But I still don't know much about it other than a combination of a whole bunch of different fandoms like Doctor Who, Sherlock. Uh, it mainly comes to mind Stephen Moffat stuff, but there is one name, fictional name, that I know a whole lot about, and by that I mean I know nothing because there's so much to know, and that is this fictional character John Locke. That's
That
all I really know.
that is not a character, okay? Well, we're gonna get to that. That's not a character. That's a ship name between
Oh, I thought that
Sherlock
was the.
and John Watson.
Oh, wait, who's. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but who's the Michael Fassbender character? I thought that was his name.
Michael Fassbender character. No, he's Michael Fassbender from X-Men?
Yeah, there. Okay, so this is what I know about this fandom. There is part of the John Locke ship, which I've been clarified is the name of the ship, not the
Yeah.
character. But part of that ship is that Moriarty has a Watson character with him, and that guy is played by Michael Fassbender, and their ship together too.
Oh, I've never heard about that. But if you've seen Sherlock, have you seen Sherlock?
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
haven't seen the end of it because it
Okay,
kind of
but like
peters out, but
no, there's no Michael Fassbender in
no, that
Sherlock
was
as far as
full
I can remember.
it because what I know about this fandom is that they wrote in a fandom character to make all of it make sense, like give it reason to why this show wasn't as good as it used to be. At least that was my understanding of this.
Okay, okay. I see what you're like going toward. I've never heard that theory before, which is very interesting. But um let's take a step back for a second.
Yes.
What we are talking about, okay, is the cultural phenomenon known as Superwholock, which is, if you don't know, it took place mostly on Tumblr in the year of our Lord 2012 to 2014. Those were the big years for it. Those were the big Tumblr years in general, but those were the Superwholock years. Um, and
And
so let's
if you
super.
don't know what Tumblr is, it's just a
We can't help
nerdy
you. Then we can't help you.
subculture where nerds can talk. That's what it is.
If you don't know what Tumblr is, there's no hope for you. Uh,
Why are you listening?
um, so the Superwholock is a combination fandom name of three shows. It is Supernatural, Sherlock, and Doctor Who, which Max already mentioned. When I first heard of that, I thought that it was a crossover thing, that people were trying to get them to cross over, and there were a bunch of like weird fan-made crossover videos done, but that is not what Superwholock actually was. And I want to put this out here at the top. I have never seen Supernatural. You've seen Supernatural, right?
I've seen quite a lot of
Yes.
Supernatural.
I've never seen Supernatural. I don't watch it. I wasn't a part of that fandom, but I did get unnecessarily obsessed with it during the 2020 presidential election, but let's not get into that. That's a whole other story.
Was
um
that when it was wrapping up?
yeah, that was at the end. That
Okay.
was when that
Yeah.
was when the the hell episode
Yeah.
aired,
I
whatever it
dropped
was.
off of Supernatural like season 10 around the time that it was like it was the monster of all monsters, and I was tired of Sam or Dean dying at the end of a season and then the next season starting and they come back and they're like, "Why didn't you come and save me? What the hell?" And that happened like 3 times.
Yeah, I
But
heard they died a
Supernatural is
lot.
good.
All I know is the Destiel stuff. All I know is the Super Hell stuff, which we will get into. Um,
Yes.
but the idea of Superwholock was that the people who were avid fans of Doctor Who and Sherlock and Supernatural, were it was like a common people. Like they were,
Mhm.
if you were a fan of one, you were most likely a fan of at least one of the others or all of them, which is true for the two of us. Um,
And I
but
also feel like it was the kind of thing where if you were obsessed with this show and you liked the nerdy subculture and you saw that this other show had something similar, you would just go to that because you assumed it was something that you would like. And more often than not, it was something that you liked. These
right,
3 shows were so not similar in tone or themes, but just in subject material.
yeah, and they were similar. I wouldn't say subject material actually, but I would
Well,
say
I was
that
gonna
they're
say
similar.
2 have sci-fi horror elements, but 1 doesn't have that. So yeah, that doesn't
No,
really hold up.
I think it's just general vibes, and it was a big thing in queer spaces online, and it was a big thing with queer people online, or women who enjoyed queer relationships, which is a can of worms that we're not gonna
And even
talk about. But
not
um
necessarily if these shows even had those
oh no,
relationships,
because
because
they
they
don't.
didn't.
Because they didn't. That's what I was just about to say. Not that these shows were uh queer, because they weren't. They
Hmm.
objectively were not queer. But the thing that at least 2 out of the 3 were very known for was queer baiting. Which is, if you don't know what queer baiting is, I'm gonna say the definition right now, the one that I know off the top of my head, which is a piece of media or something that has media backing behind it that is advertising to queer people as something that has representation when it objectively doesn't. So things that are known for queer baiting, trying to get people to believe that they have queer elements in their property to get more viewership, right? To
Yeah,
get
just to
money.
get that part of the pie of the whole population.
It's a marketing technique, and it is not a good one, and it is
No.
very, very controversial.
And
And
it never works out
actually, no,
either.
it's not controversial. It's just bad. I'm gonna say that. It's just bad. Don't do that. But stuff that is really, really known for it is Teen Wolf, Supernatural, and Sherlock. Those are the 3 that are the most prevalent. There's lots
Hmm.
more. And Doctor Who fits into this because it wasn't really queer baity, but the Doctor themselves is an alien who doesn't have a defined sexuality, and so people in fandom spaces and online were putting queer identities onto the Doctor, which is
Hmm.
valid, honestly, as we've seen since then. I don't know if you've seen recent Doctor Who, but it's valid.
Has recent Doctor Who come out yet? I was waiting for that.
No, not the new ones, not with David Tennant,
Okay.
not the new ones. No, no, I'm talking about Peter Capaldi and Jodie and all of them. But I was about to go on a whole Doctor Who rant, but no, we don't have time for that.
We'll have a Doctor Who episode when those episodes come out
Right.
because I am excited for those.
But basically, Superwholock was a time in fandom history when people from different fandoms would like bridge the divide, and they would I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It was a time of connectivity, I guess. It was weird. It was really weird. And like I said, I wasn't a fan of Supernatural, so I wasn't super in depth in the Superwholock phenomenon.
Right.
But I did know about it because I was a fan of both Sherlock and Doctor Who during that time period. And most notably, these shows did not have, at that time, did not have any real queer representation or visibility. It was all fandom generated.
Mhm.
That's the important takeaway from the Superwholock phenomenon. And jumping forward to now, the three shows that I mentioned at the top, Good Omens, What We Do in the Shadows, and Our Flag Means Death, are three current shows that have a lot of the same audience, that have generated a
Mhm.
lot of similar fandom ideas. And the people who are in those fandoms are now calling these three shows online, quote unquote, the new Superwholock.
It really feels like, and this isn't the case at all, because the creators of the three modern day Super Wholock, like they're well known, but it feels like the fans of the old Super Wholock taking the reins and taking control and be like, no, we're actually gonna do this right.
Well, I don't even know how I feel about it because it doesn't make sense to me why people are saying it's the new Superwholock. I get it. It's three shows with very similar audiences. If you enjoy one, you're gonna enjoy the rest of them. But like I said before, the quintessential factor of Superwholock was queer speculation and queer baiting and not having queer representation. And these three new shows, they all have extreme levels of queer representation of them. They are objectively queer shows. And they are not, it's not the same kind of phenomenon as Superwholock, you know? So it could, because the show is basically boiled down to gay angels, gay vampires, and gay pirates, and that's just what it is.
And right from the onset of those shows, maybe not as much Good Omens if you're not reading in between the lines, but like
And what are you
it's
doing?
obvious in all three of them that just like, oh yeah, these people are going to get together. And they do. Like they deliver on that.
Well, it doesn't even matter if they get together. It's just the the queer representation. They don't need to be, a couple to be queer,
Hmm.
and like that's what is really interesting, especially about like What We Do in the Shadows. That show is extensively queer, and you know, I don't know at all what is going to happen with, Nandor and Guillermo. I don't even think they should be together or
Oh
whatever. I don't
God.
know.
And I should clarify, I'm not up to date on What We Do in the Shadows or Our Flag Means Death.
You're not?
I'm
Oh.
not. I can't talk in context of a lot of the spoilers with the modern stuff with them, but I do know of all of the characters and,
Mhm.
of them.
It's okay. You don't need to know because this was happening, this like fandom progression, I guess, this renaming of Super Wholock was happening before these new seasons came out. They
Hmm.
were it happened right after Our Flag Means Death season 1 aired, I believe. Um and it's just really interesting because it's really interesting to look at the way that the TV landscape has progressed since, what did I say, 2014?
Hmm.
Because right now the big draw for queer audiences is not three shows starring a bunch of white men who are cis and straight as far as we know and who would never be caught dead kissing another man. No,
But maybe they might be.
yeah, like in the marketing or whatever. But the draw right now is actual queer shows actually starring queer characters and most of them are people of color and or women. There's lots of queer women
Hmm.
in the new season of Our Flag Means Death and in What We Do in the Shadows and in Good Omens. Yeah, I forgot about that. I was like, what? I was like, the only two characters in Good Omens are Aziraphale and Crowley in my mind. No, there's other characters and they're queer women, and that's great.
Yeah.
It's just more interesting to see more people, different stories. I don't know. I don't understand people who are against representation of any kind. It doesn't make sense to me.
And my big issue, and I don't know why we're on the tangent of on representation, but why
No,
would
it's
people
important to this
care?
discussion.
Yeah, why would people care about more representation when at the end of the day they're still gonna get a a bunch, probably like one a year, of just a movie about a superhero white guy. Like it'll still happen. You'll still get that. Why does another black superhero coming out? Why does that matter? I've never understood that.
People are dumb. People don't think. That's what people are afraid of. That's what white supremacists are afraid of. They're
Yeah.
afraid of uh what do they call it? Like I didn't even know the term, but of be oh the like the replacement. It's the great replacement. That's what it is. They're afraid of the great replacement, which is so stupid.
It's ridiculous.
Anyway.
We'll wrap this discussion up by just saying there's nothing wrong with a kid seeing another minority as a hero,
A
as a
hero
person to
or
strive to be.
or a protagonist or an evil pirate who murders lots of people. All
Yeah,
of the above.
back to the new trilogy fandom, because I think we should in this episode come up with a name, because it can't be new
It's not
super
super
Hulock.
Hulak because it doesn't fit with the memory of what Super Hulak was, because Super Hulak was, honestly, if you think back on it, sad and
Yeah,
depressing.
it was a fandom asking the creators, like, can this happen? Is this even a
It
possibility?
was
And the creators,
begging.
yeah, just out of the sake of getting butts in seats, the creators were like, maybe it could, just keep on watching.
it's
And
because
that's terrible.
it's because they want to string along the queer viewers to say, oh, this is gonna this might happen, watch and find out, watch and find out. I hate that term, watch and find out, fuck you. uh, and that it's that, but also not wanting to upset the conservative viewership. It's the age old argument, right? How do you get as many viewers as possible? Oh, you cut out the 10-second gay kiss that was in the last Star Wars and ship it off to China. Oh, you tease Teen Wolf, whatever, Styles and whoever. I didn't watch Teen Wolf. But, that kind of
Neither
marketing.
did
If you
I.
ever saw, no, but since I am, I've been online, so I'm a certified queer baiting expert. But I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I feel like everyone who's ever Googled queer baiting has seen it. It's this video of uh the guys from Teen Wolf, whatever they're called, the
The
main ship
Teen
couple.
Wolves.
No, they're not wolves. Only one of them's a wolf. One
Wait,
of one of them is Dylan O'Brien. That's it. One of them is Dylan O'Brien, and the other one
oh, the
is,
Maze Runner.
yeah. You go. That's so funny where our brains are, because you're like the Maze Runner, and my brain was like, "What's that guy's name from the All Too Well 10-minute short film?"
My brain also went to, he was the voice of Bumblebee for like 5 minutes.
That's true. Yeah.
They should bring him back. He was great as a voice of Bumblebee.
Anyway, there was this video of of Dylan O'Brien and the guy who was, his character's fake boyfriend, whatever, right? They're not dating in the actual show, but they are they're on a boat and they're all cuddled up, like cuddling on each other, and then they look at the camera and go, "Oh, didn't see you there. You should vote for Teen Wolf for best teen choice award for best couple." And then they just like put their legs up on top of each other, and then the video's over. And it's
But
like,
you're not a couple.
that's literally, if there was a video dictionary, that would be the definition of queer baiting in the video dictionary. That's like
Oh,
absolutely
I
insane.
had no idea about that. That is hilarious, but just deeply, deeply evil.
Yeah,
The ideas
it's
behind that.
it's super wrong. Like, there's nothing more I can say about that. And that's, I don't know if the fact that that is not the draw to queer viewers now, that's not the draw of these shows, right? That's not what they're based on. I don't know if that means that there's been a fundamental change or evolution in television since 2014. I think that it does mean that, but that's almost 10 years ago. So I'd be, obviously things have changed. Lots
Right.
has changed. Um
Honestly, I was just thinking, and I had the idea of with today's social media and transparency around everything, I don't know if a Super Hulock would like stand today.
mhm.
I don't know.
No, it absolutely wouldn't. That's why it's an interesting thing that people are dredging up the history of Super Hulock and being like, "Oh, this is the new Super Hulock because it's three shows that have a similar audience with gay people, except Super Hulock didn't have any gay people in it." So, I don't know. I think that we're definitely in a much different place. I don't know if it's better or worse. That's what I'm saying. I think it's better in lots of aspects, but
Hmm.
the way that, like, and everyone was just made aware of a bunch of this kind of stuff because of like the writers strike and the actors strike, which is still going on. The SAG-AFTRA is still on strike, union strong. Everybody should be aware of that because the strike is not over.
There's also a VFX unionization and the video game industry, as I believe, going on strike. So yeah, everyone be strong.
Unions are important.
I guess I should ask the question, is it necessary to give this trifecta of queer shows a name? Because honestly, now that I'm thinking of just the idea in general, there's plenty of other shows. Like when you were talking about shows saying just wait and find out, just wait and find out.
Hmm.
The Owl House did that, but that is because they had something planned. They
Right.
had an actual queer relationship that they wanted to, naturally progress to.
Yeah, well, that's not the same thing. If the show has a storyline that it's working towards and is saying
Mm.
watch and see because uh because we're getting there, that's way
Yeah.
different than saying, is there gonna be gay stuff on this show? And people would be like, I don't know, keep watching, maybe one day. And then at the end of their show, they have their gay character say I love you to their other character, and then they have him go immediately to super hell forever and is never mentioned again. See, when shows do that, that's wrong. That's
Hmm.
bad.
Yeah, there has to be a clear plan if you're gonna say, just watch,
Not that
wait
there
and
has to,
see.
it just, you have to show that with intention. And there were people who were like, oh well, shows like She-Ra and other shows from earlier in the early 2000s did stuff like that too, where they were like,
Hmm.
where it could be construed as queer baiting, but that isn't the same thing because those shows were meant to be queer and they couldn't be because of studio intervention. That's
Yeah.
not the same thing as the creative team objectively marketing to queer people saying you're going to get representation, and the creative team never putting an ounce, not the creative team's marketing, the marketing team, but the creative team not ever putting anything in their shows at all.
My mind is just brought to there's some clip of a Comic-Con panel where a fan goes up to the whole like cast and crew and writers of Supernatural, and they just directly ask if Castiel
Oh,
and
I remember
Dean
that. Yeah.
are gonna get together. And like the actor for Dean just like probably just out of shock. Like I remember being very, very off put by the whole clip, but he just dismisses it. And the
Yeah.
writers kind of say, well, maybe we don't know. It could
Mm-hmm.
happen. And it like that whole thing just hurts. And the whole idea of queer baiting without having a clear plan just hurts.
It's no, it's not queer bait because if you have a plan, then it's not queer baiting. That's just
Yeah.
storytelling. you know? Yeah. No, it's absolutely a ridiculous thing to do.
Mm.
And we're just two guys talking. We're not like we haven't researched this stuff. I mean, I've researched it in the past, but for this, we're just, if you want a well researched video, go watch the Sarah Zed queer baiting video. It's very good. Or there are lots of other really good ones on the internet. I'm pretty sure CJ the X has one. If
Hmm.
not, then just go watch all of CJ the X's videos because they're amazing. Um,
Yeah, you learn something by watching them. Otherwise,
always.
you'll just have fun.
But I don't know really. I think I've been referring to the shows in my head in a funny way. I've been referring to them as the Holy Trinity. Um just because because I know that Aziraphale would love that, and Crowley, and then all of the vampires in What We Do in the Shadows, and all of the pirates in Our Flag Means Death would hate it. And I thought that that was funny.
That is fantastic. I don't know if it actually caught on, but it was like a year ago or 2 years ago when Succession, Better Call Saul, and Barry were all coming out, and
Oh
that
yeah.
was being called the Holy Trinity of like
Yeah.
prestige shows, and they
Yeah.
wanted those to cross over. Oh, that is perfect. The Holy Trinity.
Yeah. Well, this is the Holy Trinity of prestige gay.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Which is
no.
which? I
Oh,
don't
no,
know.
I know. Okay, so
Okay.
it goes up is Good Omens, down
Yes.
is What We Do in the Shadows, and then
Yeah.
pirates. And What We Do Our Flag Means Death. I can't speak.
Though I started out the first episode of season 2 of Our Flag Means Death, and that's
Oh.
definitely going, whoa, down in a good way, because I fucking loved it. But whoa, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And obviously there's a big elephant in the room that two of these shows are very similar because two of them were created by Taika Waititi, which who we stan, unless
I
unless there's something we don't know. But
I don't know. I lost a lot of faith after Love and Thunder, but I still love Taika Waititi.
Love and Thunder was it was a miss. Sometimes you have hits,
Yeah.
sometimes you have a lot of hits, sometimes you have a streak. I don't know, baseball, but then sometimes you
Yeah.
miss.
Sometimes you just swing that bat and it just connects with absolutely nothing but air. And it happens.
Sometimes you get to bases 1, 2, 3, and then you miss the fourth base. You run way in the opposite direction. Uh,
Other baseball metaphors.
Other things. Jackie Robinson. Okay. That's all I know about baseball. Babe Ruth,
Yeah.
there's another one.
I don't. Most I know is playing it on Wii Sports.
Oh
But
yeah. Wii Sports baseball was fun, but I preferred boxing.
that was fun.
Yeah. But I preferred Wii Sports Resort, which
Oh, oh my god.
excellent.
What a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Fantastic tangent too, because I just love talking about Wii Sports.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
need to go back to that. But
My favorite
what
was
were we?
huh?
No, we can talk about Wii
I
Sports a
was
little
just saying
longer.
I loved the plane. I love flying the plane around the island. I
I'm trying
asked
to remember.
I asked my
Oh,
mom a few weeks ago. I was like, "Do you still have our old Wii? Because I kind of want to play Wii Sport Resort." She was like, "Absolutely not. No, I don't have the Wii."
I wonder if those games are on Switch because I got a Switch like specifically to play Mario Kart and Super
Yeah.
Smash
I
Bros.
don't think they are because I think it was like specifically for the Wii because of the motion capture stuff or
Yeah,
whatever it was called. Motion gaming.
I'll fish out my Wii from the dumpster then.
Do it. Um,
But what were we talking about? I feel like
I think
is
gay
there much
people.
else? Like, yeah, is there much else to talk about with gay people?
Oh, no. That's it. That's all gay people have to them. It's those three shows.
Yep.
Nothing else of worth to note. Uh,
Oh God. There is the point of I want this progression to continue, especially if it's exponential as it seems to be, because we're just
mhm.
getting a whole lot of representation and crazy shows about pirates who come out as gay, and I love it.
Yeah. They don't even need to come out. That's the great thing about these shows. Okay, that's what I was going to say. You reminded me. Because these shows are dealing with people who are not bound by societal norms. They're dealing with angels. They're dealing with who've been alive for eternity. They're dealing with vampires who've been alive for basically eternity. And they're dealing with pirates who live on the open sea, and they're all there because they're all social outcasts, and they're not bound by the norms of that time. You
Mm.
see Steed struggling with that in the first season of Our Flag Means Death. And in What We Do in the Shadows, you see Guillermo come out to his family, which is very important to him. And it's a very fun episode because his whole family tries to kill Nadja. So good. But those are the exceptions in the shows. Everyone else is queer without problem, without, I don't know the word I was trying to say. I need a thesaurus. I need to have one with me. But they are not, they don't have to come out. They don't have to be ashamed of their sexuality. I mean, Aziraphale is ashamed, but he's ashamed because he loves Crowley, who's a demon, but not. No, no, no.
Well,
That's not
he's
true.
he's
That's not true.
ashamed of every slight thing he does.
He's ashamed of
So,
himself. Yeah, he's not ashamed
yeah.
of Crowley at all. I take
No.
that back. Aziraphale would never be ashamed of Crowley. He is ashamed of himself,
Hmm.
which is very evident.
And that is another thing that you kind of brought to my mind is a lot of these characters, like sure they're gay and it's fantastic to see that just on a screen so that we can see some sort of other interpretation of life, but they're also flawed. And it doesn't matter, like
Yes.
them being flawed and them being gay has nothing to do with each other. And
Yeah, I
that in
mean,
and of itself is so important.
yeah, I mean, do you know how freaking tired I am of seeing the gay best friend or the perfect gay character, like who's
Hmm.
they're gay but they're so good at everything, and they're just like, oh, like the movie Love, Simon. I'm sorry, I love the book Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. It's very different from the movie where it's basically a straight passing man who is just perfect at everything that he does. Whatever. We're not talking about that. But it's so annoying. And oh, and third, the period dramas. The period dramas, the lesbian period dramas, stop it. Stop it. I don't want to watch them. I'm tired. Also, the dying of AIDS. That's, in every gay movie, they die of AIDS, or it's a lesbian period drama. I don't, that's pretty much, that was it for a long, long time. Or they don't die of AIDS, they die from a hate crime, right? A la
Hmm.
Brokeback Mountain, right? But
Yeah.
that's what it was for so long. That's everything that was queer, with actual queer people in it. Everything else was because of, multiple things, because of the Hays Code, because of certain, uh, sensibilities, because of box office success. It was all people who were implied to be different. I'm using air quotes. People who were different, people who were not like other girls, people who were
They just can't fit in.
sensitive, boys who were sensitive, like fuck that, okay?
Hmm.
These shows are really, really fun because they are full of a bunch of terrible people doing terrible things or good people doing good things. Most of them are terrible people.
Because most people are terrible
Most people are
people.
terrible
And it
people. Yeah.
fits.
I would go so far as to say I'm pretty sure all of the characters are bad people except for Crowley. I think Crowley's the
Yeah.
good person amongst
Well, out of
these
everyone
bedfellows
that we
in
can
all
list in
of
the
these
Holy Trinity,
in all of these
yeah,
shows. Yeah,
Crowley.
Crowley is the best person. And he questions authority and he rages against the machine. That's important.
As we do on this
As
podcast.
one does. But yeah, they're allowed to be flawed. They're allowed to be unapologetically queer, and they don't have to conform to societal expectation.
Mm.
And that is, I think, really moving in a positive direction. It is, I think it's a lot aided by the streaming style that all of these shows come out in, except What We Do in the Shadows, I think, airs on FX, maybe.
I didn't even know because I usually just binge it once a whole season
Well,
is out.
I watch it on Hulu, but it
Yeah.
comes out weekly, so I
Hmm.
think it just airs on FX. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. And I think the streaming model definitely helps it. Obviously, Our Flag Means Death and What We Do in the Shadows are benefited by Taika Waititi's celebrity and his name attached to them
Hmm.
gave them very good jumping off points. But
And
What We
once
Do
you're
in the
in those
Shadows,
shows, those like the style that he brings, it definitely keeps you in.
yeah. But and obviously he's starring in Our Flag Means Death. So he's there all the time. But
If you haven't seen Our Flag Means Death, I'll just say Taika Waititi plays Blackbeard. That should be enough to make
if
you
you
watch
haven't seen Our Flag Means Death, what are you doing 42 minutes into this video?
it. Not that we've given any spoilers other than the fact that it is a queer show and you could probably guess who the relationship is.
There's nothing really else to spoil other than
Yeah.
but it's a good direction we're going in. It's aided by the streaming model. I'm definitely repeating myself. I guess I don't have anything more to say.
So with that, should we move on to the consumption corner?
Sure.
Because I personally am starved for content. I don't know about you, Sasha.
Grr. That's my stomach growling.
Sound like Perry the Platypus. I know you've probably been watching Loki.
I only saw the first episode. I've been a little tied down with family matters. I was not
Yes,
able to see the last
some family stuff did happen, so that is understandable, but
Yeah.
you gotta watch it. It's great.
I will.
But I guess that kind of just leads me into I was really into the Marvel mood. And so right after Loki or the episode or the new episode aired, I watched I Am Groot, the new season of that.
Oh, there's a new season of that? I thought
Yeah,
okay.
they just kind of shadow dropped it. I had no idea either. And it's relatively similar to the first one if you've seen that. It's just 5 really short episodes. You could watch it in like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
But Sasha, the 4th and 5th episode of season 2 are spectacular.
Really?
The 4th episode, Groot's just trying to get this space ice cream truck and hilarity ensues, but the 5th episode blew my goddamn mind. I'm not going to say
Really?
anything other than you got to watch at least that one episode.
Okay. I've never expected I Am Groot and spectacular and blew
Yeah.
my mind to all be in the same sentence. So I will give that a watch. I did watch like 2 of the episodes of the first season of I Am Groot, and then I was like, okay,
Hmm.
I know what this is. I don't need to watch the
Yeah.
rest of them. But interesting. Yeah,
It's
I'll give it a
definitely for
watch.
kids,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
Is he still a baby?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
just his time period as Baby Groot.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
So what have you been consuming lately?
um, I am on to the Titan's Curse in my PJO reread. Uh, Objectively the best one. Non-objectively, I always try and figure out which is my favorite between Titan's Curse and Battle of the Labyrinth, and usually it boils down to whichever one I'm reading, because the Titan's Curse has a really, really good mystery going on in it, and it's so compelling to read. But Battle of the Labyrinth has more Nico. It has Rachel Elizabeth Dare. It has lots of more Annabeth, because Annabeth is
Mm.
not in the Titan's Curse a lot. Uh,
I was just gonna say it's definitely Labyrinth because I still remember being like 8 years old and reading when Annabeth like kisses Percy on the cheek in the lava or in the volcano,
yeah,
and I was like, I was squealing like a little girl,
yeah.
just little 8-year-old me.
Well, you were a little kid. You squealing like a little kid. You know, I I absolutely love that book. I remember I read that book in one day. And that was the first book that I had ever read in one day when I
That
was a kid.
tracks.
Yeah.
And then you got to read the fifth, which honestly, that one's probably my favorite. It's just pure action
It's
in New
really
York
good, but it's
or
not my
Manhattan.
favorite. I think just because it's less of a quest and more of just like a
No.
long battle in the whole book.
And I think that's why I do like it because it's a long battle.
Hmm.
But honestly, that would be a good episode. Just talk about the 5 books
Oh, it'll
before Percy
happen.
Jackson comes out.
Oh, it'll happen. Trust
Oh,
me.
so excited for that. But
um,
I have been kind of slacking on my Chalice of the Gods and Percy Jackson reread because I started reading something else entirely.
yeah, you
Sorry,
said last.
it's not all the young
Ah,
dudes.
dang.
I'm sorry. Although I have been reading that, but I was given more time because sadly the movie was delayed, but I have been reading Dune and it's been
Oh,
good, but
okay.
what has been allowing me to get through it further because I got the book, I've been reading a few chapters here and there, but the audiobook is what's helping me get through it really fast. And I just kind of want to talk about audiobooks for a second
Oh
because
yeah.
I never did it. But I mean, we're making a podcast. I'm sure both of us like listening to podcasts, and I've done that for years. I've never listened to an audiobook before, and it's amazing. I gotta recommend audiobooks
Yeah,
just
no,
for
I love
anything.
audiobooks. For me, it's really hard to listen to an audiobook as the first time I've read a book, but I use them all the time for like rereads. I've
Hmm.
reread tons of books as audiobooks, and that's super fun. Um, and I like them a lot. And I read The Lord of the Rings with an audiobook because it was very hard to read.
I cannot wait to get into Lord of the Rings next because I have tried to read that so many times,
Hmm.
and I'm just gonna have Andy Serkis read it to
Andy
me.
Serkis. That's what I was gonna say. I read the Andy Serkis one. I listened to the Andy Serkis one, and it's so fun, and it's obviously very long, but
Yes.
but it's good.
Yeah. So do you have anything else to talk about?
Um, I am starting. I just started my Halloween rewatch of Interview with a Vampire,
Oh my
which
goodness. Honestly, is
everyone
that
go out and watch Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire because it's so good. The show, the new show, not the movie. Uh, it's so incredibly good, and I love it, and I cannot wait for season two. Even though I'm very sad that they recast Bailey Bass because she had to be an Avatar. That was
Hmm.
upsetting.
Well, I have not seen this show, but I definitely want to. But I'm thinking next week would be a good episode for just things that we watch every Halloween or just good Halloween watches.
Hmm.
Because that I have so many of those. A couple that I'm rewatching that we could talk about then.
Yes, absolutely. I love that.
But
But you
I
should absolutely.
definitely
But Max, You should watch Interview with a Vampire.
I've heard it's so good.
It's incredible.
But I do want to close out with some speculation for the video game Spider-Man 2
Mm-hmm.
because Sasha, I am counting down the seconds
Oh, I
until
know.
this game comes
I
out.
know. You've mentioned it
Oh,
in the last 4 episodes we've done.
I'm just like, yeah, man, well, I mean, we'll talk about it next week. And now it's just like, oh, it's coming out soon. I need to talk about it because so excited for this to be one of the few good interpretations of the Venom storyline and Peter Parker getting a symbiote and getting angry and becoming a bully. Like we've
That's
seen that
interesting.
been done very, very badly many times.
What? You don't like Bully Maguire?
Well, I don't hate it, to be honest. It does make sense for the character, but oh, it's awkward to see. So, Venom in this game, first off, is voiced by, I was about to say Tony Jaa, but it's Tony Todd, I think, but it's the voice of Candyman, if you've seen that.
No.
It's perfect. He's is a perfect voice, but the identity of Venom, I'm pretty sure in this version, like the more marketing and the more just stuff that I see about it, I become more and more convinced that it's Harry Osborn who's going to be Venom.
Ooh, okay.
But and this was something I was almost confident about a year ago or just months ago was Craven is going to be a massive villain in the game and they're probably going to do Craven's Last Hunt, which is Spider-Man in the black suit is defeated by Craven and he's buried alive. And I'm pretty sure that's going to happen in the game. I'll have to mash X to get out of the grave, and that'll be fun. But I also think that Craven is going to get the symbiote, and he's going to be Venom. That would be a good explanation for why Venom is just massive and stacked, where Harry Osborn isn't really that big.
That's that's a lot of interesting speculation. That sounds very cool. I have to say, I know absolutely nothing about this game. I've not seen any promotional material for it. So I'm really just believing everything that you're telling me right now.
Oh yeah, it's all facts. What I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, I just cannot wait for this game. So much fun. I'll probably talk about it next week because I will have played it.
Yeah, the whole thing. Do you know how long it's gonna be?
The game itself,
Yeah.
it'll probably be around like 20 hours of playtime,
Dang. Dang. All right.
and I'll
That's
love every
commitment.
second of it.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, this has been a queer baiting podcast.
No! No!